Happy Friday. Yes. Stay out today, I have to say. Wish I could spend it outside. All right, great, guys. Yeah, today we'll be overviewing and for some of you reviewing two very important topics. How about we dive into it? Okay, what your source for is shaping, so that's going to be one of the other teaching methods alongside natural environmental discrete trial training, chaining, which we've just discussed, and generalization, kind of bringing it all together. First thing I have to ask ourselves, what is shaping? Shaping is teaching the approximation of a target skill in these smaller bite-sized chunks. The idea here is if we have a complex skill that we're trying to teach an individual, instead of targeting the final step of it, the complete task, we want to get an approximation and then reinforce that. And then over time, keep reinforcing the approximation so then we end up with the final behavior. So the idea is here, we're trying to get closer and closer to the approximation. I have this video here. So this is demonstrating it.
I go ahead and demonstrate shaping. So essentially it is approximations and reinforcing the approximations until the client is able to master whatever the task is. In this scenario, we'll be teaching our client, or I'll be teaching how to say over a period of different sessions. We will actually get. So the first session, we're just going to see if we're shooting this pronounce the first letter, which is love. Can you say, pronounce love for me? Good job. In the second session or the next session, we'll go ahead and progress even more and continuing on for the word. Divide, can you say ba for me? And then in the next session or future sessions, we'll see if we can progress from the whole entire word. Divide, can you say ball for me? Ball. Good job.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, pretty cut and dry. So we already mentioned that it's helpful for more complex tasks, but shaping is also useful for when the individual cannot perform the entire skill. They can only perform just bits and pieces of it. The behavior is difficult for them to engage in on a regular basis. And if it involves multiple steps. Shaping can kind of serve as an alternative to chaining. Essentially the same idea. We're trying to build up behavior as opposed to reinforcing the final product. You guys know that I can see all right? Okay, just making sure. And for our intended purposes, some of the examples we may encounter where shaping can be used as an option would be to increase communication, like in the video, whether it's a vocal command or it's teaching a sign. We can shape it to get to the final version. Very easy to shape duration-based goals. So being able to stay on task or participating in an activity for longer duration of time. And for tolerating transitions, which we discussed last time. Actually, let's take a look at this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to demonstrate shaping, which is setting a final behavior goal and reinforcing the steps to get to that goal. We're going to demonstrate it by learning the word bathroom. You say bath.
Bath.
Good. Bath.
Bath.
Bath. Bath.
Bath.
Bath.
Fast.
Good. Fast.
Fast.
Five. Fast. Through.
Fast. Through.
Good. Fast.
Fast.
Good. High five. All right. Fast. Through.
Fast. Through.
Bathroom.
Fast. Through.
Very good. Bathroom.
Fast. Through.
5.
So you got the final results there. Sticking with the bathroom example, you can also do with the sign. So instead of teaching them to do the bathroom sign right off the gate, perhaps we can simply reinforce them clenching their fists. And then from there, reinforce them putting their thumb through the fingers, and then reinforce shaking it over the course of a couple of days. That's just another way you can approach it if that's the request for targeting. Okay, yeah, kind of bring it together in terms of the procedure. You just want to start where the client is, because by definition, with shaping, we have an end goal in sight, but the client has to get there. And this would typically be where they're at their baseline. And from there, we're going to make an incremental jump in the criteria we're expecting. So with the example of engaging in a group activity, let's say they can only do it for 30 seconds. Yeah, the goal, let's say it's 10 minutes, but they can only do it for 30 seconds. So now we're going to raise the criteria slowly. So instead of making the goal right at the gate 10 minutes and they're going to fail every time, why don't we go with a minute? Let's see how they do in a minute, and then reinforce that. And then from there, we're going to want to be mindful of not reinforcing the previous criteria. So let's say they get to the point where 1 minute, just fine. 2 minutes goes by, whoop-de-doo, they can do great. We then, once they get to 5 minutes, let's say they can engage in a group activity for 5 minutes, we don't want to reinforce them only doing it for 1 minute, because then it kind of stalls the progress. We want to reinforce the behavior we want, and if the behavior we want is more time, then we're going to want to reinforce that instead of going back to where they were before. And I think this video here kind of helps us see.
You set the target.
What am I doing? Yeah, this video stresses the importance of starting off with where the individual is at.
Good behavior. You have to identify the starting behavior. What skill do they have in their repertoire? All right. You then have to select the shaping steps. And I'll give you one other example of how this could work. Back when I was in grad school, I taught this in College for Kids class, and they paid me $500, and I earned every penny of it because I think I had 16 kids who were all about ages 10 to 12, and they each had a rat that they had to teach how to press a lever. And it's interesting, kids who are 10 to 12 actually seem to like rats. Something happens when you get into like high school or college, nobody seems to want to hold a rat. These kids are like, oh, they're all excited, right? Their end project was teach your rat to do something really cool, right? I left it kind of vague, all right, what they should do. And so the final day, some of the kids came in and they had taught their rat to climb a ladder and go down a ramp and through a tunnel. You know, it was all kind of handmade stuff. This one other guy had kept his door closed the whole time, told me not to come in, right? I'm like, oh, what's going on? So day of the big day when they were showing off what they're doing, he brings his rat out. And I said, what does your rat do? And he says, I taught him the moonwalk. And this rat, this is probably the worst demonstration of moonwalk ever, but this rat would go up to the front of the cage and would walk backwards. It would be like that. And he'd give it a pellet of food and come running forward and eat it. And I was just cracking up. I'd never seen anything like that. And again, this is like an 11-year-old kid. So I started running around the building in the summer, and there weren't that many people, but I managed to get like 4 professors and about 10 of my grad student friends. I said, we got a Michael Jackson rat. I said, it's unbelievable. But again, there's a case of a 10, 11-year-old kid who understood how you shape that up. And when I talked to him about it, and he didn't even ask me, right? When I talked to him about it, though, he said, I noticed at one point the rat just kind of stepped backwards. And I gave it a pellet of food, right? And then I did that a few times, and the rat did this. And I gave it another pellet of food, right? And he's basically, it's like, before you know it, he's like, the rat's like moving like that. So shaping, and again, if you're a pet owner, you probably use shaping on them too if you're trying to teach some kind of trick or something. Other questions to ask, we're going to do a little demonstration here too. Other questions to ask when you're doing shaping, are you seeing progress towards the target behavior? If not, then you want to bring somebody in or you want to check and see what's going on there.
I just wanted
Is the
to
behavior that's
share the importance of having that initial behavior that you can build up towards the approximation. And just out of curiosity, who here has pets? Anybody? Amir, what do you got?
Got a cat.
Okay, cat knows any tricks? You taught him anything? Okay, well, that seems to be an unconditioned reinforced behavior. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else has pets? Dan, you got anything? Ah, how fortunate. Well, so am I. So I don't blame you. Yeah, John, didn't you mention you have turtles or something?
Turtles? No, turtle soup. I don't have pets. They're too cheap to have pets.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a bird, but it's a little tricky to teach a bird.
Well, I have a neighborhood cat that comes by every morning. Does that count?
Neighborhood, okay, so it comes every morning,
Mhm.
and let me guess, you give it food?
Yeah, my leftover breakfast.
Oh, there you go. That is a behavior that gets reinforced.
You give them the food?
On the dot too, yeah.
I thought you kicked them out.
Well, it's outside, not inside.
Yeah. Well, if you were to get a pet, then there are a whole suite of resources that are all essentially shaping-based procedures that you can teach them those kind of tricks. I have a buddy. He taught his little dog how to play dead after he shoots him. But yeah, fun for parties. All right, so that's how we would use shaping to teach. Now, if we are going to utilize shaping, there are some very crucial things to keep in mind. So the first thing we want to keep in the back of our heads is to not move too fast. Again, we want to gradually reinforce those approximations so they can surely get to the final product. You can only imagine what would have happened with the rat learning to moonwalk. If the child was demanding the rat to move too fast, to go too far into the cage, then perhaps it would have never learned to moonwalk to begin with. So it's really important to ensure we are reinforcing at the correct rate. And as I alluded to earlier, do not reinforce previous steps. Because what you're going to do is you're going to reset the criteria from closer to the end goal to back to near the beginning. So we want to avoid that. And yeah, coming to the end here, the steps gradual enough for them to stay motivated. Because if we make the gaps too big, if we're expecting the rat to go from making one step back of the cage to moonwalking, then it's not going to do it. It's going to, like the clients, they will be discouraged. It's not going to want to do it. So we want to make sure we're addressing the criteria with the reinforcements as it happens gradually. Now I'm wondering if you can teach a dog to moonwalk. That'd be interesting to see. The rat can do it. So can a dog. Good to move on? Okay. Yeah, any questions regarding shaping? A pretty simple concept, very powerful one. And yeah, I'm hoping to find ways to implement behavioral. You can think of behaviors to trial training, chaining. They're all tools we can use to teach clients skills. So when we have these options available to us, we have some familiarity with them, then we can really make the most out of what the clients are able to learn from. But coming to one of the most crucial topics we are ever going to discuss is generalization. As we've talked about in the past, when it comes to the clever Hans effect, it doesn't really serve an individual well if they can only perform a particular task or a skill in one setting with only one other person present. That doesn't really serve them much good, especially if this individual is going to be in different settings, different contexts. We want those skills to matter, because if not, we're kind of wasting our times if there's only certain circumstances, the stars have to align in just the right way for them to do it. We certainly do not want that. So what we want is, to have goals in place that can be generalized across multiple people, multiple settings, multiple contexts. We want to ensure that the individual can respond flexibly in those contexts, and that even after we fade out the goals and introduce new ones, that they maintain those skills. And I think these videos are results of prompt dependency. So let's see what happens if we don't plan for generalization.
This is a video of prompt dependency. Oh, Mallory, come on, you come into your book bag. You're almost there. It's right there. Right here. Remember, it goes right here on the hook. Okay. All right. So remember, you need to take the straps off. Oh, and then remember, we have to hang it up. You got to hold it right here. Hang it up. Okay. What's next? What do we do after our book bag? You could go sit at the table and read a book. Oh, Mallory, right there, sit down. Right here in the yellow chair, you can sit right there. Like this, sit right here. There you go. Oh, did you want to look at the book? You can open it. There you go, nice job.
Now the question is, what would have happened if the teacher was not there? What do you guys think would have happened?
On one hand, the girl could have just been standing there the whole time, maybe.
Yeah,
Or maybe on the other hand, if that girl was looking for attention, that person, if she knew exactly what to do, maybe she would have gotten farther in the steps. Maybe.
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, the demonstration is more towards the former, where if the teacher wasn't there, she probably would have just stand by the door the entire time. And if she was doing it for attention, then we could have introduced a time delay to actually give her a chance to respond. Like we were talking about yesterday. So if you notice, she didn't give her really much of a window to do anything. She told her, oh, go, what can we do after you set your bag down? Oh, you can go sit down. So you didn't really give her that window of opportunity to respond. And do we need this one? Yeah, sure. Go. Oh, yes. Or, or prompt dependency.
Are we ready? Let's look. Mallory, look here. There you go. Touch the bus. Nice job. There's the bus. Way to go. Notice how Mallory's only looking when I tell her to look. If I don't say look, she continues to look around. Okay, my turn. Mallory, let's look here. Good job. Touch the puzzle. There it is. Nice job.
Yeah. Can you imagine just how disruptive that would be, having to instruct the individual every time that you want their attention to look? Yeah, so that is not something we want to. That's something we want to address for certain. Okay, here we go. I think this is the next slide. Yeah, so let's go over the various forms of generalization, where the different skills that individual learned can be applied in different contexts. Here we have what is referred to as stimulus generalization. This is where the same behavior can occur across multiple people, multiple settings, multiple conditions. And this is incredibly crucial, because you can kind of look at the example I provided here. Okay, let's say there's a client here. They know how to use the restroom. They can go independently. They know exactly where it is. But what if they're out in the community? Can they do it when they're in the grocery store, in the restaurant? Do they know what to look out for? Or do they need things to be in a very particular way in order for them to go? That is the idea behind stimulus generalization. If a skill has been generalized, then it's safe to say that if the client knows how to use the restroom here, they'll know how to use it at the mall, in their care home, anywhere that skill can be performed. Most important thing, yeah, multiple people, settings, and yeah, instructional materials as well. Okay, so here's a lighthearted example of stimulus generalization.
These are tarantulas. These are very dangerous. They can bite you. Are they gonna eat me?
Yeah. Yeah, so you see, she responded in the same way that she would with an actual tarantula. So there, the stimulus was generalized. The fear response was evoked, whether it be an actual tarantula or that little sketch. We'll talk more about discrimination a little bit later, but the way that I like to think of any type of behavior, any type of responding is on the spectrum between discrimination and generalization. You can think of them as being two sides of the same coin. So the main thing to take away for now is generalization. We want that the behavior to occur in new situations, new contexts, whereas for discrimination, they should only happen only certain contexts. And again, we'll be looking a little bit more at that in a little bit, but I think it's more important to stress right now, generalization is about being able to respond in a flexible way. Okay, so we have stimulus generalization. This is where the same behavior can happen across multiple settings and people. Now let's look at the reverse of that, which is response generalization, where the behavior itself changes, however, it leads to the same outcome, the same consequence. And what's really important here is that new response is untrained. We didn't show them how to do that to begin with at all. And I think the best example of this would be greetings. We can teach an individual to say hi initially, then reinforce that. But then later on, they develop new ways of greeting. They could say, how are you doing? They can say, ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está acá? All that fun stuff. Again, and all this comes completely untrained. You don't show them. They might be able to pick this up through modeling instead. And what's really important about response generalization is it removes the possibility of what's called rote responding. This is where an individual may say something, but it doesn't really have much meaning behind it because it's all they say. So for instance, one of the care homes that I go to, there is a client, and every time you ask him, hey, how are you doing? He says he's number one. Every single time. He could be having the worst day of his life. And yet, if you ask him, how are you doing? He's going to say, number one. So we have to reinforce him giving different responses. And the way I have been showing the staff how to do that is, hey, how are you doing today? Are you good or are you great? Giving him some options. He'll say he's good or he'll say great at one of these times. And then, yes, thank you for telling me you're doing great. That's awesome. And just the other day was the first time where I asked him and he said he was good. So that was a step in the right direction because again, at that point, he was only saying, oh, I'm number one. Response maintenance, this is something else that is incredibly crucial. This is where the behavior persists, the new skill, after the intervention is removed. So you can think of this as the goal being mastered out in either the ISP or the VIP. So it's no longer on there. We're no longer tracking it, and yet the skill still persists. The client is still able to do it. For instance, if we have a goal that is for them to greet, and then it gets mastered out, it gets removed from the ISP or VIP, and the client is still able to do it, then we know that the response maintenance has occurred. Yeah, and even if the goal is no longer listed on the VIP or the ISP, if we still kind of maintain it from time to time, kind of just check in, then that's how we can know that it is still persistent. Okay, let's take a look at some strategies we can implement in order to ensure that maintenance is online. So the first thing is being able to fade out reinforcements. There's an important distinction we can make between the acquisition phase and the maintenance phase. Acquisition is when we are trying to build up the behavior. And it's very important in this step to be able to reinforce at every single correct instance of the behavior. Even if it's prompted, we want to reinforce it. That way they can build it up and they can have the skill in the repertoire. But once they got it down, it won't be necessary to reinforce every single time. If anything, it would just be best to reinforce every now and then. So then they're not going to expect the reinforcement to arrive. And when we talked about scheduled reinforcement, you guys can recall how it's kind of like a lottery schedule where you don't know if you're going to quote unquote hit it big. You just know that if you try enough times, reinforcement will come. Again, people who go to the casinos know very well that their chances of winning are not great. And yet they still come back. Why? Because it's an intermittent scheduled reinforcement. It maintains their behavior because the payoff, when it does come, is much more higher valued. And it's the exact same thing when we implement these goals and use reinforcement in that way. And just as we talked about reinforcement, we want to be able to go from more the contrived, the ones you would encounter in more controlled setting, like here with edible items and access to tangibles like the iPad, to much more naturally occurring reinforcers. And the last one, program common stimuli. So if the client has an AAC device, we want to be able to ensure that the icons that they use are more or less the same from from the different contexts. That way they're not thrown completely off when now the way they have to record something looks completely different than what they're used to at home. Okay, and you is training. This is yeah, runs a little counter to what we've been talking about earlier when it comes to being very consistent in the delivery of the SD of the instruction, but it's important for generalization because we have to be able to be instruction for them on single type the delivery and instruction. So that's what tone of voice makes the instruction a little bit. Again, we ourselves want to engage in a bit of response generalization. So instead of saying, "Oh, put on your coat," you can say, "Oh, go get your coat," already implying that they're going to have to put it on to begin with. So I think, yeah, in terms of teaching loosely, I think those would be the main ways we want to do it. Sparing the instruction is probably going to be the most important role. Easier. Questions on generalization? Let's move on. Before we move on, I kind of want to bring everything together with the importance of choosing the right goals and then being able to teach them in a way that is effective and be able to generalize them. Because as we see here, sometimes the role we can play can be a matter of life and death. So let's do this. Essential for really. And in retrospect, I probably should have played this one when we were looking at assessments and I spent a good time talking about EFL, but
Skills and essential for living that are there because of individual children. They screwed up. And oh, it bothers me. One of my very first behavioral projects, I taught a young lady to respond to her name. Many of you have heard me tell that story of Janet because she bolted out of the classroom and was headed for the highway on the second day of school in 1968, and I had to tackle her on the grass to avoid getting to the highway, where she would have had no regard for a car. And so I sat with her knee to knee, and I taught her with artificial whipped cream. I taught her how to respond to her name very slowly. 4 years later, Janet died. She came back home. I was in graduate school, and she came back home one day from home. She was such a large person. The mother and dad had trouble toileting her. She had never been toilet trained. And imagine what the monthly period is like. If your mother is 5'2" and you are 5'9" and weigh almost 200 pounds, and that's the size of your mother. And her father wasn't much taller. How are they going to manage her? So they had placed her in a group home because they just physically and couldn't find anybody to come in the home to do it. She came home one afternoon after school, went upstairs before anybody realized it into the group home, went into the bathroom, turned the hot water on in the tub, slipped and fell in the tub and died of shock instantly. All because she didn't know the difference between the hot and the cold water faucet. And that skill is in the Center for Living. Well, I wish to hell I'd have taught that. I could have saved a life if I had taught that, but I didn't. And it was a long while before I never taught Janet a man either. Wish to hell I'd done that. But you can't look back. It doesn't help. You can learn from your lessons and dedicate yourself to doing other things. I'm on a mission right now to convince most of the world. In fact, Troy and I are going to the Verbal Behavior Conference in Austin tomorrow. See, and if it's like it was last year, there'll be most of the other presenters will be researchers young PhDs who are showing their new research, and most of it will be on higher functioning kids with autism, higher than the kids that we generally talk about. Okay? And then you think to yourself, and so I'm on this mission. I'm going to try to convince more and more and more people that verbal behavior is more important for these kids than even the higher level kids. When you don't have much of a language repertoire, the function of your language matters. It does. It matters a lot. And even more so than kids that they're worried about whether they can teach them joint control, whether or not somebody who can hand you a fork when it's on the table in front of you, but can't go across the room and get 4 forks if you ask them. You know, it'd be nice if you could get that skill. Of course, that's an advantage. But you could sure as hell live without that. You can't live without man's. I've told you guys this story that Jack Michael used to tease me. I think I told it yesterday. Why do we say it's all about man's? Because it is. Jack liked that answer better than the one.
Yeah. And again, just a quick refresher, mans are requests for the individual being able to advocate for themselves, be able to make their needs and wants known. Yeah, it's just a really important thing to consider that, something as simple as distinguishing hot versus cold can, lead to somebody's life potentially being saved. Okay. Well, how about we get started with these questions, guys? RBT is teaching a client to finish a group activity, in this case, bingo. Once the client successfully says for 1 minute, the RBT stops reinforcing the previous 30-second goal and now only reinforces 1 minute. What is this an example of? Giving training loosely, moving to the next.
Letter D. Daddy.
Let's see. It is moving to the next approximation and shaping. Yeah, I can see why I think it's training loosely, but we want to keep in mind that we're trying to move closer to the target, that being 1 minute. Okay, good. Awesome, guys. Client is learning to identify a bathroom sign at the day program and is later able to find a bathroom at a public library. What is this an example of? Shaping, stimulus gen, discrimination, training, or response? I'm hearing stimulus generalization. Everybody in agreement?
Yes. That is good.
Yes. Again, when we think of stimulus generalization, we think same behavior, but can it happen with a different person at a different place?
In different places.
In this case, it was a different place. RBT is teaching a client to say hello without being taught. The client starts saying hi and hey. What has occurred here? I'm hearing whispers of response generalization, stimulus.
I think that is the response.
Yeah, everyone seems to be in agreement here.
Response.
Yes, response generalization. Here we think different behavior, same outcome. Saying hi versus hey, they may sound different, but they lead to the exact same conclusion. Greeting someone. Great. Which of the following is a common mistake to avoid when we're using shaping? Is it fading reinforcement too slowly?
Letter B.
Making the steps, between the goals too large, reinforcing only the current step, or using 0-second time delay?
B. I think B.
Okay, Gloria said, let's take a look. Yes, making steps too large. Again, you don't want to go from having a rat make one back step to all of a sudden moonwalking. You don't want a client to go from, attending to an activity from 30 seconds to 10 minutes. You need to make those steps gradual. What is the primary goal of response maintenance? To reinforce a single response forever, to teach client new skill faster, for beer to continue after formal training has ended, or to ensure the client can perform the skill in a new room. Okay, I heard C. I think I heard C from you too, Tommy. Okay. Anybody have anything different? C? Yes. It's about maintenance. Key word being maintenance, we want to maintain it. So even after the goal has been withdrawn from the ISP, the client can still do it. That means it's maintained. Good. When helping a skill last over time, maintenance, what should happen to the reinforcement schedule? Should it say continuous? Should it just stop immediately, be thinned out, or be replaced with physical prompts?
Well, 5 and 6. Same question.
It's a similar question, but coming at it from a different angle. Okay, I'm hearing CCCC, so let's see. And
C,
Number.
that is for number 7.
yeah, it's almost
Same 5 and 6 parallel question.
it's almost like
Basics from the-
5 and 6, the same question.
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry,
We,
guys.
we know that usually is.
My bad. All right, well, do a better job next time.
No, you're just testing us whether you know it.
No, you're giving me way too much credit.
Make sure we pay attention.
Sure. I'll fix it. I'll fix it over on some of the. I'll just have to take it later and get it right. Okay. A client learns to use a microwave in the day program and now can use it at their group home without new training. What is this?
English.
Skill acquisition, B.
So I'm hearing D. I'm hearing B. Let's see.
Oh, stimulus.
Stimulus generalization. Yes. Same behavior happens in a different setting. I can see why you think it's skill
Yeah,
acquisition.
It's the same.
The skill acquisition involves them learning the skill.
That's the same as stimulation number 2. No,
Yeah, skill acquisition is then just learning a new skill. So here they've already learned it in this setting, and without new training, they were able to do it at their home. You're teaching a client to wash their hands. You use a time delay procedure where you wait 5 seconds after they turn on the water before pointing to the soap. So what is the purpose of this 5-second wait? Ooh, we're going back to what we were talking about yesterday. Give you guys a moment to think about it, to review it.
time delay.
Yes. So remember, time delay, you give them a window of opportunity to respond. Okay, what's the verdict?
D. D.
D?
Yeah.
D?
So by the window,
Yes.
maybe you could put the independent the next step.
Yeah, exactly. We want to give them a chance to see if they got it. I think that's the last one. And RBT is training a client to use a new communication app. The RBT varies the instructions by saying, tell me what you want. What do you need? Pick one. What is this an example of? Okay. I'm hearing C from this side. Danny saying C. Everybody else
Letter B.
agree? Letter B.
Yes.
Stimulus fading. Let us take a look. Training loosely. Yes. Remember, training loosely is when you change or vary your instruction. So instead of saying, tell me what you want every single time, you mix it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
What do you need?
Tell me what you want. What do you need? And
Yes.
then pick one. Okay.
Yeah.
Training loosely.
That way, the client is not only going to respond when you ask them, tell me what you want. And I like to think of training loosely as us having our own response generalization. Different behavior, but same outcome. Yes. Great. We've got a handle on that one. Probably do a little bit more do it when time comes. All right, well, I presume there are no questions. This is the start run. Seems like we've already covered it at length here. In that case, I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Thanks, Sal. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.